What is happening? This is the Combat Conversation, and I'm Mitchell Torres. On this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking to Jaime Jara, a true fighter on and off the mat. This is an incredible podcast, guy. He has a great story, and I hope you enjoy it, because I did. Thank you, Jaime. Happening podcast listeners, this is Mitchell Torres, and this is the Combat Conversation. I'm here with Jaime Jara, underground fighter from the North Highlands. How's it going, Jaime?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. So, man, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I mean, where do we even begin? So, I guess I'm gonna ask, how does Jaime Jara get into martial arts?
You know, it's funny because I used to fight all the time as a kid. I don't know. I never used to really pick fights, but I used to always get into fights. I never really backed down. But when I got into high school, I started wrestling. You know, my dad was a wrestling coach over at Ridgeland High School, and he got me into wrestling. So I started wrestling for him. And actually, when I was wrestling, I think my senior year, I ended up taking second place in the state championships.
Wow.
I actually went 56 and 1 that year, and my only loss was in the state finals.
Oh, wow. So you just jump in and you're built for it, I guess, because wrestling is a hard sport.
Yeah, it was, and I was real kind of lazy about it. I didn't really like training. I just, it's funny when your parents are pushing you to do something, you kind of rebel against it, and I was kind of like that. But I was just a natural grappler, so I got away with it just on my athleticism and, maybe it was in my blood because of my dad. You know, when my dad wrestled, he wrestled in the Olympic trials in 1969. Oh, wow. He actually lost to Bobby Douglas, who took the gold medal that year.
Holy crap.
So my dad was a really good wrestler. He wrestled for UC Davis, so I learned a lot from him.
So then in that case, it's almost in the blood too.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I think you kind of born with it.
And then from wrestling, what's the next step?
What happened then is I wrestled in high school, and then I went to college for, community college, like Sierra College for a while. I wrestled with Sac City College for a while, but I really didn't, I wasn't really interested in doing the schoolwork and stuff like that, so I kind of dropped out, and I started bouncing in, a nightclub. At that time, it was called the Yucatan Liquor Stand. It's over off of Arden Way, right across the street from Arden Fair Mall.
Okay.
But I used to work there, and we used to get in fights every night. And there was a guy that I worked with, and his name was Dan Olson, and he was a brown belt in this kung fu style. And he used to always do stuff on us and beat us up all the time and punch us and just jack us up all the time. So he got me into that, and I started doing martial arts, and I got my black belt, and eventually I took over that school. I started running that school. But what was funny was that school was on Stockton Boulevard, right there in the middle of Oak Park.
Right,
and that's where we're all the gang members and the prostitutes and all the homeless people were. And every day I would get somebody in there challenging me to fight.
Just walking off the street.
We were just fighting all the time. Just fighting. And eventually, I was like, I'm not getting paid enough money to do this. And, I'm in a bad part of town. I had a lot of students, but I wasn't making a lot of money because I was under a franchise.
Okay.
And I was paying the grandmaster most of the money.
Wow.
So I decided I didn't want to do that no more. And then I said, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to get paid for it. And I just happened to run into the right people at the right time.
Okay.
I ended up getting hooked up with Cal Worsham, who was running Team X at that time.
Okay.
And I went to a couple of the practices, and I fell in love with it. And he actually got me my first fight. So, and because of my wrestling background and the martial arts that I was doing, I actually did pretty well my first time. And then I think it was my second fight. I think it was a day after my son was born.
Oh, wow.
I fought in an 8-man tournament. It was a heavyweight tournament. I was like 220 pounds at the time.
Wow.
And I fought an eight-man tournament, and I fought 3 times in one night.
Wow.
And I ended up winning that tournament, winning the heavyweight belt.
Wow.
Yeah.
So going into your first fight, was it even a worry that to even step in a cage or a ring and fight?
You know, it's funny because, people talk about, they get really nervous and stuff before they fought. But I think, I fought so many times during my lifetime. I've been hit with beer bottles and baseball bats and chains and, everything, so
when those situations arrived, it's already, you've been there, done that.
I always would have this calmness about me when I fought.
Wow.
Maybe too calm sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes I think I was so calm that it got me in trouble a lot of times. But, because fighting on the street's a lot different than, fighting somebody that's a skilled opponent in the cage. You got to have some kind of fear, just a little bit.
So your second fight was a 8-man tournament.
Yeah, it was an 8-man tournament.
Wow. And how did you feel after an 8-man tournament?
I fought 3 times in one night. In fact, my first guy that I fought, I believe he was over 300 pounds, and I ended up hitting him off the side of the cage, and I knocked him out. And then my second fight was against Carter Williams, who was
Carter Williams.
He was a K1 kickboxer at the time. So I knew I didn't want to stand with him. And thank God that I had wrestling. I just took him down, and I was able to TKO him pretty quick.
Wow.
I think it was less than 13 seconds I was able to pull that one off. And then in the finals, I met Pete Wervey. He was pretty good. He was a tough guy. I think he was a purple belt at the time, and I didn't know any jiu-jitsu. I was just a wrestler and just scrapper, you know. So,
and then what gets you in the jiu-jitsu part of the game?
Well, when
that's not jumping too far ahead.
It wasn't, because at that time there wasn't really a lot of jiu-jitsu schools around like there are nowadays. I think Cassio was here, but I didn't really know anything about him. And so what I was doing was I was learning my jiu-jitsu. I would buy books like, Eddie Bravo had books out, like the Mastering the Twister, Mastering the Rubber Guard. I'd buy those books. They would have like DVDs. Mario Sperry had one out, and I bought that one. And I was learning all my jiu-jitsu from that. And I'm very visual, so I can look at something and I can pick it up pretty quick. So I was just drilling with my teammates, just those moves over and over and over again, and I got pretty good at it. And that's where I started doing my jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And it wasn't until maybe 2008. I was fighting for 5 years already. It was 2008 before I even got into actual doing jiu-jitsu with Cassio.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I started to do no-gi with him, and I liked his no-gi class, so I said, I'll sign up for your no-gi class. And he's like, well, if you're really serious about this and you really want to get good at jiu-jitsu, you need to train in a gi. He really believed that was going to make my technique better. And I told him, well, I don't really fight in a gi. Why would that make me better? He goes, just trust me. You just have a little trust in me and try it out for a couple months. And if you don't like it, then quit. And so he finally talked me into doing it, and I did it. And when I first came in, I hated every minute of it because, I had a pretty good guard at the time. And people were grabbing my pants, and they were stopping me from doing things that I was used to doing, and I wasn't used to the grips. I didn't know how to break the grips. And then I was hating it. I was hating every minute of it, but then it caught my curiosity. I was like, oh, what if I do stick with it? Mm-hmm. How good can I get? Because, when something challenges me, I wanna conquer it.
Exactly.
So I stuck with it, and I got good at it. And it's funny because when I first started, I loved no-gi, and I hated the gi. Now it's the opposite.
That's exactly how it was with me. I started no-gi first, and then when I started putting on the gi, I was like, man, this sucks. And now I actually prefer it over the no-gi.
It's funny, all the time, if I was to compete or fight or something like that, people ask me, because if they gave me my choice, would you fight gi or would you fight no gi? I would say I always fight in gi, especially if there was money involved. And they go, why? And I said, because if you fight in a no gi, you take away most of your submissions.
Right.
I said, but if you fight a gi, you have 100 more submissions that you can submit somebody with.
Yeah.
And if it's a submission only match and you're getting paid for that submission,
why up your chance?
you got more of a chance
Right.
of getting that money
Yeah.
with the gi on.
Wow, that's a good way to think about it too, man.
Yeah.
I think more people should think about it like that. Then,
Yeah.
wow, that's a good way to look at it. So you start the gi. What's the next step?
I start the gi and I love it, and I train every day, twice a day.
Oh, wow.
He had 2 classes. He'd have a morning class and a night class, and I would come to both classes. But in between that, I was still training for MMA, so I was still wrestling. I was still boxing. I had boxing coaches.
Wow.
In fact, at one time, Tony Tiger Lopez was my boxing coach for a while. I got a lot of good rounds in with him.
Ooh.
Who can say that?
Yeah,
they sparred multiple mini rounds with Tony Tiger Lopez.
Right. Dang, that's incredible.
It was awesome. I just got lucky and got hooked up with him, and he taught me a lot. So I learned a lot from him.
So when you were doing the MMA, was it everything was just MMA sparring? Even when you're doing your gi, was it still like MMA inspired?
No, because Casio has a real deep love for the art of jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I kind of took that away from with me when I started to teach, like in my school, because when I had people that were doing MMA, they would like be feigning punches and stuff, and I'm like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that in this class. You take that into the MMA class and you do it. We're in here, you're doing straight jiu-jitsu, and I believe that if you're training your jiu-jitsu, focus on your jiu-jitsu at that moment, and if you want to work your MMA part of it, you need to take time out of your day and find time to do that on that time.
Yeah, that makes sense. You fought at multiple weight classes.
I fought at heavyweight. I fought at light heavyweight. I fought at middleweight, and I fought at welterweight.
Wow, you got down
all the way to 170.
Wow.
So I walked around at 220. So I would cut down to 170.
Dude.
To fight certain fights.
If I was a welterweight and I seen you coming across the cage, I think I'd just say, pack up the bags, boys, let's go home.
I always believed that dropping all that weight would give me an advantage, but I think it hurt me more than anything because, sometimes I'd cut like 35 pounds within 48 hours, and it would be all water weight because I didn't have a lot of body fat at the time, so it was really hard.
Wow.
And sometimes I never recovered, even with the IV, I didn't recover.
I mean, that's a physical fight before you go. I mean, that's 2 physical fights. The weight cut to cut 30 pounds, and then an actual fight, and then, man, the recovery.
The hardest part of the fight was not, the training was hard.
Right.
The training was really hard. But not only that, but you got to look at this way. When you're an MMA fighter, everybody said, "Oh, you got the easiest job in the world. I'd love to be a fighter." It's so no, because your job is 24 hours a day. You have to train all day long. You have to eat right. You have to go to bed.
Yeah, sleep is
you
important.
have to take care of your body. You can't be screwing around. It's 24 hours a day. So it's just a lot of work. And the hardest and the training was hard, but the hardest part was the weight cutting and getting the weight off. There's times I'd sit in the sauna and I sweated so much that I would stop sweating.
Wow.
And no more sweat would come out. And I would be sitting in the sauna crying because I can't sweat anymore.
Wow.
And it's crazy. They would have to lock me in the sauna sometimes.
And going through all that, you do it again.
I would do it again. Yeah. And at the point, there's times when I would fight on TV, I would make a lot of money, but most of the times I'd be fighting on Indian reservations,
Right.
and they don't pay you any money. So I would be fighting every couple of weeks. So I may fight,
Oh man.
I might fight one day, and then 10 days later, I'd have another fight, you know?
Yeah, especially in like that mid 2000 years, you got a lot of guys were just fighting constantly.
I think like when I fought for Bellator, when I fought against the Spirit Wolf, when he pinned me up against the cage, hit me with the elbows. I took 48 stitches in my face, and the commission suspended me for 45 days, I believe it was. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I said, I have to fight. I had to fight in 10 days. And they're like, there's no way. I said, yeah. I said, I have to fight, take this fight. And they told me, you find a doctor to write that you're able to fight, and you bring it to us, and we allow you to fight. And I said, okay. So I found somebody that was a friend of mine that knew a doctor. He took all 48 stitches out of my face. He wrote me a letter, took it to commission. 10 days later, after I got the stitches out, like I got the stitches out the night before the fight.
Oh man.
And I fought 10 days later.
Wow.
And crazy thing is, I was in the middle of a fight, and something happened. I ended up in I was on all fours. I was on my hands and on my knees, and the guy soccer kicked me right in the face, and he split my head open, and almost knocked me out. I didn't know where I was at that time, and the ref was going to stop it and DQ him because he had just blatantly just soccer kicked me in the face, and I wouldn't allow it to happen. I said, no, I want to finish the fight.
Wow.
And I didn't know where I was.
But it was just that fight.
And
I got to fight.
And then he came at me again. I shot him. I took him down, took his back, and choked him out, luckily. But that came back, and he had kicked me so hard that it tore the muscle in my head. They not only had to stitch the muscles inside of my face, but they had to stitch the outside too.
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy.
And you still come back.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't want to go too far off subject, but getting into submission only grappling, training for that, is there any similarity to training for mixed martial arts?
It's funny because when I did my first jiu-jitsu tournament, I think I was more nervous about that than I was any MMA fight ever. And everybody was telling me, they're not even throwing punches. Why are you so nervous? And I was like, maybe because it's new to me.
Yeah.
It's new to me. I didn't.
Because also, if you lose, it ain't because you got out-fought, you got caught in something, and maybe the skill level should have got you out of it.
But not only that, but, maybe I didn't want to let Casio down.
Right, yeah.
Especially being one of his black belts. But now that I've done so many of them, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah.
Because I know when I train very hard. I push past everybody else.
Yes.
I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I train harder than the guys that are in their 20s.
Right.
At
what point did the pain first come in? Because fighting, boxing, kickboxing, grappling, people get hurt just from doing one of those things. Add them all together, when did the first nagging injury occur?
My first injury, probably my knee. My left knee started getting bad. I started having a lot of problems with my knee. And I just you get injuries and you just you don't let it heal. And then you're like, oh, it's just nagging. It'll take a while for it to heal. I just kept going for years and years thinking, I'm just irritating it. Finally, it got to the point where it got so bad, I went and I finally seen the doctor. They did an MRI and they're like, hey, bro, everything's tore. You have no ligaments left in your leg. You have no cartilage. Your meniscus are just floating around in there. You're bone on bone. And, I'm pretty bad on my right leg too. So my right knee and my left knee are pretty bad. And so I was like, okay, can you go in and at least take the meniscus out? Because the meniscus would get caught in the bone and then my leg would lock and it would lock up and I wouldn't be able to straighten or bend my leg. My leg would just get stuck. And they're like, no, we can't do it. You have arthritis so bad in your leg that if we go in and do surgery, we're going to just go ahead and do the knee replacement.
Wow.
And just clear it. They said we have to do a total reconstruction of your knee in order to fix it, and we have to do it in both knees.
Wow!
And that's what got me started on really training the leg locks, because I figured, look, my legs are bad, and if I can't defend leg locks, then how am I going to compete? You know what I mean? So then that's when I got really focused on doing the leg locks, and I even got more focused on it before, like, Danaher and his guys came out, just destroying everybody with leg locks. Because I knew how bad my legs were. Right. And when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, all I did was leg locks because, Eric Paulson came out with that DVD, Killer Leg Locks, and that's part of the thing that I was studying from. So we were doing a lot of leg locks back then, so I knew. But I was teaching those leg locks to my students just so I would have them attacking me, so I had get used to defending.
Right.
So it's funny because some of my best defense is from leg locks. I can defend leg locks better than almost anything else.
Wow.
You try to leg lock me, it's not going to be easy because I've been defending it for so long.
There's nothing scarier than that guy that can live in there and like not worry about it. You go against that guy and he's like all day.
As soon as somebody grabs my feet, I'm yanking them out.
Yeah.
I'm getting them away. I try not to give them a chance to lock it up.
Yeah.
My legs are weak. My knees are real weak, and once they get a hold of it, it's really hard for me to get it out. But the main thing is you keep your feet you keep your feet on the inside.
Yes.
You hide them in the inside, or when they start to grab them, you pull your feet away and you retract them. It's really hard to leg lock somebody that way.
Yeah, I've been a victim to leg locks in the last few months. Man, I've been getting lit up.
It's crazy the entanglements that they have now.
Yeah.
Like you get wrapped up in some of them entanglements, you're not going.
Right.
You're not going. You're not getting out of it.
It's so crazy.
It's bad.
So, the last. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but so going into the submission tournament, the submission. When was the first what year was the first jiu-jitsu tournament for you?
It's funny because I think I had just had a fight, and I can't remember. I believe it was around 2010. I had a fight. I fought somebody. I can't remember who I fought, but I fought him, and a week later it was Worlds, and I'm thinking I was just training really hard. I had a really hard training cycle for this fight because I think it was televised, and I had fought somebody really tough, and I thought, I trained really hard for MMA. I think that I'm in shape enough to go to Worlds and do the competition.
Right.
So I went down to Long Beach and I signed up for Worlds, and I fought my first match, and I won. I was a brown belt at the time. I had actually just got my brown belt. It wasn't that long ago. I had just got my brown belt. And then I fought my second match and I won. And then I fought the third match, but by that time my forearms were blown out to the point where I couldn't even grip anymore. And I ended up losing that match. But what I learned from that was training for a jiu-jitsu match and training for an MMA match is totally different. It's not even close to being the same,
When does jiu-jitsu become the main focus over MMA?
What's crazy was getting towards the end, the higher I got up in belt, the more I started to love jiu-jitsu and the more I just wanted to do jiu-jitsu. But MMA was paying the bills, so I still had to do it. And what upset me the most was I would have to miss class. So especially if I had a fight out of town, I would go and I'd miss like 3 or 4 days of class, and I would be so upset. It was crazy. I'd miss class, and I was that really upset about not being able to go to class. In fact, when I fought in Bellator when I fought Spirit Wolf. I told you I took 48 stitches in my face. I fought him on a Friday night. Monday morning, I showed up to Cassio's class with 48 stitches in my face, and I trained that day with the stitches in my face.
You hear that, guys? All you guys that are not showing up to class the next day after a tournament, you have no excuse no more.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Not only that, but I've trained with a broken back for months,
Jeez.
That last fight to win I broke my back right before that fight to win, and I just dealt with the pain. I was like, man, I'm so close. I train so hard. I'm so close. I'm still able to train through the pain. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna. What is it? 8-minute rounds.
Yeah.
It's on 8 minutes. I can suck it up for 8 minutes. Wow. And I ended up doing the fight.
It's such an impressive performance in that match too.
And then I won. And then it wasn't long after that my back got. Whoa! I know what happened. I did that fight, and I don't remember what it was, what month it was.
January?
Maybe no. It wasn't January.
The fight to win?
Maybe March or something. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know. It might have been around that time. But after the fight, I was thinking, okay, Worlds is in like August, Masters. I said, I want to do Master Worlds. And I said, I made it through this. Maybe I can just keep training and just train through the pain and make it to Worlds. Because I did that in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I trained with a broken back and I made it through. And the pain got so bad this time that I couldn't, and I just had to end up doing the surgery.
Wow.
My back got so bad that it just was, I couldn't even, I was in bed all day long. I couldn't get out of bed, and the only time I got out of bed was to try to train.
Wow.
It was horrible,
And you're still trying to train. That's amazing.
But back in, 2016, I broke my back, and my back was broken pretty bad then.
How did that happen in 2016?
Doing jiu-jitsu, I guess. Yeah. I had arthritis, in my back. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened was the cartilage and everything was gone. And I was bone on bone on I think it was L3 and L4. And it was rubbing, and my vertebrae started to slide.
Oh, shit.
And it was breaking bits of bone off, and it dislodged into my nerve canal and my legs, so I was having really bad leg pain, and I was just ignoring it. I said, I'm just going to get through Worlds. And I got to Worlds. I was in a wheelchair, and my girlfriend actually was pushing me around Las Vegas in a wheelchair. She actually pushed me up to the mat in a wheelchair, and I ended up submitting everybody all the way to the finals, and I lost in the finals by an advantage.
What the hell? That's an incredible story.
I submitted everybody in under 2 minutes. I submitted everybody. And
most people can't even understand that.
Not only that, but you got to realize in Masters, these are only 5-minute rounds.
Yeah.
So to submit
these
people, you're doing it. You put some fast work in. I submitted everybody all the way to the finals and lost in the final. I fought in Masters 3 years in a row. And all 3 years, I submitted everybody to the finals, and I lost in the finals by an advantage 3 years in a row. So
what the heck?
I never actually got the gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just racking it up, and in the end.
But in 2016, I ended up fighting. I was in a wheelchair. I got on a plane. We flew home. Soon as we landed in Sacramento, we dropped our luggage off at the house, and my girlfriend drove me straight to the hospital. 5 days later, I had back surgery. And
what's the reaction to the organizers of these events when they see you roll up in a wheelchair and they're like, do they say, are you sure that you're going to do this? And then you go out there and you smoke everybody.
No, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny because, when I did the fight to win, everybody see me just strolling up on a current cane.
Yeah.
And they're like, is this guy for real?
Yeah.
They're like, okay. And they didn't really take me serious. But then after the fight, people's like, they kind of switched their thinking.
Yeah.
Because they go
I
off
was
what
there.
they see.
I was there and I seen that, and I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't know.
Yeah.
Then I see an inverted triangle. I'm like, what the? that blew my mind. And the people I was with, because they came from out of town, they were like, "What the heck?" I mean, it was something for people, especially people that don't know, that to see it.
Came off a bow and I had a double lapel bow and arrow, but I was over his chin.
Okay.
And my corner screams out, "You have 20 seconds left." And I was like, "Shit, I'm not gonna get this under his chin in 20 seconds, and I want that win money."
Right.
So I switched it to that triangle. I said, "What the two things are gonna happen? Either I'm gonna finish the triangle, or he's gonna slip out."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going for it. There's 20 seconds left." And I knew no matter what, I was going to win the fight because of that.
Yeah.
Because they go off the submission attempts.
Yeah.
And that was a very serious submission attempt. I already knew that I won the fight.
Yeah.
But I wanted the submission. And I was submission hunting.
Wow.
So I went for it. And, you know, it worked out for me that night.
That was incredible. I mean, I think everybody should go back and look up that fight, because that
was a great fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight. I loved it.
One of my best.
So, right now, the time that, are you trying to get back on the mat eventually? Is that the goal?
I would love to.
What did doctors say about that?
You know,
I mean, I can imagine.
The doctors always tell you no.
Yes.
You know, but you know, when I fought, what was it, like one of my fourth or fifth fights? I fought Scott Smith, and he hit me. He shattered my whole face and shattered my eye socket. My eyeball fell into my sinus cavity.
Oh shit!
And it was stuck there. And I didn't know at the time that it fell there. Not only that, but the bone fragments were lodged into the bottom of my eyeball. So I was like, you know, I was in a lot of pain, but I was like, I didn't know. I still wanted to fight too, because he hit me, knocked me, kind of flash knocked me out, and I got back up. I wanted to fight, but they actually stopped the fight. Thank God, you know, kind of saved me, I think, because if I got hit there again, who knows what could happen. And my dad's like, "You need to go to the hospital." I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'll be all right." He's like, "No, I'm taking you to the hospital." He took me to the hospital, and they did the CAT scan. They're like, "Dude, your face is shattered. We need to put implants.
Right.
We need to put your eye back in place."
Yeah.
Plus, they had to get the bone fragments out of my eyeball. So luckily, I ended up having the surgery, and they told me, "Yeah, you're never gonna fight again. You're never gonna fight again." And I don't know, 57 fights later, I was still fighting.
So what was it? Was it love for the fight game the whole time? Like you just
when I first started fighting, I was working. I was installing alarms and running wires. You know, installing cameras. I was making good money doing that, but I didn't want to do that. I was crawling in attics and crawling under houses, and I was like,
I did that for a while.
I want to fight. I want to do this. So I made a decision. I was like, do I make all this money and have nice things, or do I quit doing this and just live from fight to fight and do what I love to do? So I made a choice.
Wow.
I made a choice to become a full-time fighter, and it was hard back then. You know?
Oh yeah, man.
You know, even back then, the UFC wasn't even paying the fighters. When I first started fighting, it was illegal in California, so we had to fight on the reservations, and that's where they had the 8-man tournaments.
Yeah.
So I fought in 2 of those. And the second one that I fought in, I met Rashad Evans in the finals. And me and him went 3 rounds.
Yeah, and he was a heavyweight at that time, right?
No, we fought at 205.
Oh, okay.
That's when I had dropped down to light heavyweight. So I met him in the finals, and there was a lot of tough guys.
Yeah, there was.
There was a couple guys that actually were fighting in the UFC at one time that were in that tournament.
Those Central Valley casinos, man, a lot of the guys that or in the UFC come through there. A lot of the guys that come from the major organizations, they all come from there.
A lot of them come from King of the Cage and
King of the
Gladiator Challenge. Like Uriah Faber, when he first started fighting, I was fighting in Gladiator Challenge with him. You know, Quentin Rampage Jackson.
With the singlet.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He was fighting for King of the Cage. Dan Severn, all those guys.
Yeah, man. Those King of the Cage, especially at that time, they were loaded. I mean, even like Diego Sanchez was fighting, George Santiago, at middleweight during that time. It's like, wow, I'm telling you, that time, you had all the killers on those cards.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So, the Carnage BJJ, or Carnage MMA, those guys' reputation, I mean, this is what I get. One time I was rolling at a seminar or something, and I got heel hooked.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing I told the guys, "Oh, I'm not gonna roll. I have my got heel hooked. Out by who?" I was like, "I don't know. Some guys. Oh, it's probably one of Jamie's guys." So you guys have that reputation of being tough. You guys are good. You know,
I got a lot of leg lockers.
Leg lockers, yeah.
A lot of leg lockers after my school.
That's funny, man. So is that something that your students, is their intensity always like just keep pushing the pace? Because gyms have like a reputation, like this school, man, they're really strong at this. But to me, what I get is that your guys push. You guys,
my guys will push. It's just because that's how I roll.
Yeah.
I push and I push and I push and I push until I break you.
Right.
And I think a lot of my guys pick that up from me.
Yeah.
They'll push you and they'll push you and they'll break you. They'll break you down. They'll break you down. They'll break you down.
Yeah, because man,
they don't quit. They'll go. They'll go. And we'll do 10-minute rounds.
Yeah.
Just straight 10-minute rounds for full 45 minutes or hour or whatever. So.
And you guys have an MMA program within that school too?
We do, but not like it was.
Okay.
Carnage started off to be an MMA gym. And then the owner, Mike Rumsey, he finally realized, and I've been trying to tell him this for years, but he finally realized that the fighters don't have money. Mm-hmm. They can't afford to pay to keep the lights turned on.
Yeah.
I said, you need to find people, and get coaches that can teach just regular people that have jobs.
Yes.
How to, stay in shape or, defend themselves or do whatever they want. And whatever fighter can come in and pay, then, that fighter can do. So we do have a couple fighters in that gym, mostly amateur fighters. Uh-huh. But we kind of went away from, the professional fighters because none of those guys were, fighting at a level where they were making any money where they could, pay to train there.
Especially now, it's like everything you need through the commissions, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that.
Yeah, the thing is, back when I was fighting, most of the fighters were training there for free.
Yeah.
And the owner was such a nice guy. He was just taking the money out of his own pocket and paying the bills.
Yeah.
I was like, you got to quit doing this. And finally, he got rid of everybody, and then he finally got a lot of people in there that are paying. And now he's doing better, and the school's doing good.
Nice.
Got a lot of. It's a nice school now.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, man. Something about the way Cassio's instructors from Waza and all the way down, they have this how do you say it? It's a feel they put out, Yeah. And when I see you guys, it's like, man, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say here, but it's just like, I want to go train with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends that come up, because they're from all over California, they come up, they go, oh man, you got Jaime Jara school? I'm at Jaime Jara school? I want to go train at Jamie's school. Yeah. Oh, they got Dustin school? I want to go train at Dustin school. They see it, they know the reputation with all you guys. It's a good reputation.
You should come down and train sometime.
Oh man.
Anytime, you're welcome.
I want to. I mean, I get into.
You can always do the things that you want to do.
Yes.
So I'm not hearing your excuses.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know exactly what you're saying. I train about 5 days a week right now, 5 to 6 days a week at Darren's in Roseville, and 2 days with Cassio, 2 days with Darren, and 1 day with Daniel. So
it's easy to take one of those days and just hop on over.
Yes, sir.
We're not that far from Cassio's.
Right. Yeah, so I will be there. I'll go in there and check it out.
The Carnage is about 10 minutes away from Cassio's gym.
What's the schedule like for there? Because no-gi and gi?
We do no-gi on Monday and Wednesday nights,
okay.
5:30. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 5:30, we do gi.
Yes.
And then Saturday at 10 a.m.
Because right now Cassio is not offering a gi class. No, nobody does.
He doesn't.
Not a no-gi.
He quit his no-gi. His no-gi class was on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he kind of stopped it.
Yeah.
I don't think he was ever really into the no-gi too much. He didn't seem like he enjoyed it as much as he did the gi.
Yeah, right now I try to get in a no-gi with a couple guys that actually have trained it before. So me and them we'll throw off our gis off and we'll get some rolling in.
I think it's very important to train no-gi.
Yeah, it is.
I think it helps your gi game, but I also believe that your gi game helps your no-gi game.
You know what happened with me when I first, so I did no-gi first, so I didn't have no grips when I went into jiu-jitsu, so I was doing a lot of like full arm lockups,
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are in their tournaments like, oh, my hands are burned out, and I was never really using that, but now that I'm doing more advanced stuff, a little more advanced stuff, now I'm using my grips more, and now I'm like, man, my fingers I neglected them,
mangled.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say. They say, oh, look at that guy's ears, like, and then one of my buddies said, no, look at that guy's hands. That's when you know who's grappling, when the fingers are all over the place.
Yeah, I got to the point where my grips got so strong that I would have guys like Max Griffin. Max Griffin.
Yes, sir.
He will pick me straight up off the ground. And I'll be hanging off him by my grips.
Wow.
He's strong.
Yeah,
that guy's strong. Yeah, it's funny now that I haven't been able to train or do anything. I'll demonstrate something and I'll go to grab, and man, my grips are gone. I have no grip strength in my hands at all.
Damn, that's so
like
crazy.
Just grabbing the gi hurts my fingers.
Wow. Well, and man, it's like sometimes like I used to get like pulls in my forearm sometimes if I was trying to hang on too far, like too much, and it'd break off, and I'd feel these like strange pulls in my forearms.
You gotta be able to grab and hold without over muscling.
Yeah.
I think there's a point where you learn how to grab and hold with a strong
just
grip,
yeah,
but without muscling that grip. And that's where you don't blow your arms out, because I play a lot of spider guard, and a lot of worm guard, a lot of lapel guard, where I'm always grabbing the lapel and the sleeves, and I never burn my arms out.
Never.
No,
wow.
Not anymore. But I'm sure once I get back into it, it's gonna be a little different story. But it'll come back.
Yes,
Muscle memory,
Yeah, man. I mean, how old are you?
49.
49, man, and you're like in incredible shape. You're coming off of how many back surgeries? 3 back surgeries?
3. And this last back surgery, what happened was they needed a fuse. I was fused at level 3 and level 4, and they wanted a fuse level 2. And they said that I had a broken screw in my back. So they had to take the broken screw out and replace it. But when they opened me up, they realized that I had broken every one of the screws in my back. So they had to take all the screws out. But there was one screw that was broken so badly that it was embedded in the bone.
Oh, shit.
And they couldn't get to it. So they had to leave it there. So, and my back was so badly damaged from the twisting and torquing and turning and everything that the bone was so like, I guess the bone was so wore out from the screws and the hardware just rubbing up against it that they had to actually fuse 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Wow.
So they had to fuse almost my whole lumbar section. So it was a 4-hour surgery turned into an 8-hour surgery. And then 3 days later, I guess I ended up getting a bleeding. I got bleeding in my spine, and I ended up getting blood clots around my spinal cord, and it paralyzed my right leg. So my right leg was paralyzed, and they had to go in and do an emergency surgery and take the pressure off my spine.
Wow.
I think it's called myelopathy, where it puts pressure on the spine and squeezes it. So, which gave me spinal cord damage.
Wow.
So now I'm dealing with the spinal cord damage. My leg doesn't work like it, used to. So I'm trying to, I can't walk. I can't walk on my own.
Wow, it's just a
so
fight
I'm just
after fight.
I'm fighting to even be able to walk again. So.
And what do they say about like a recovery to be walking?
Well, the thing is, the sooner they get to it, the better the chances.
Right.
But anytime that you have like a spinal cord injury, they don't really know. They really can't know if you're gonna get all the function back. They said, because I think a nerve will heal a quarter of an inch every month, and we're talking from all the way from my back down to my toes.
Wow.
So it can take up to 2 years before I can even know if my leg will ever be normal again.
But why do I have a feeling that you'll be on that mat before that?
I probably will, but I'll find a way around it.
Maybe.
When they fused did the first fusion, it took away a lot of my mobility, but I found a way to work around it. I was inverting,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I could kick my feet straight over my head and touch my toes on the mat with the fusions in my back.
Wow.
When I told my doctor that, he couldn't even believe it himself.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I wonder. What do the doctors think?
He told me, he's like, I've done thousands of surgeries, and I've never one time seen anybody ever break a titanium screw, and I broke 4 of them. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, we're 45 minutes in, and I mean, I would love to go longer and longer, but but I do appreciate your time, and I think everybody should look up Jamie's fights, look up his jiu-jitsu matches, and so you can actually see what we're talking about. I mean, thank you so much, Jamie. I really do appreciate this.
Welcome.
Is there any way that people could contact you or find you?
Yeah. Give you my address of the gym. Carniture. Let me just pull it up real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
The gym is at 6224 Walnut Avenue in Orangeville, California, and the zip code is 95662. It's if you go down Greenback, it's just right past Sunrise Mall and Hazel down there.
Okay.
It's right next to that Dairy Queen. It's not hard to find.
Right on.
The whole building's painted blue, so you can't miss it.
All right. Thank you so much. I do appreciate this, and
Okay.
I would like to get back with another one, an update with your recovery.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
No
Okay.
problem.
All right, guys. See you next time, and we're out. Today's podcast is brought to you by Royal Star Inc. Custom T-shirts. Hey, guys, do you ever go out looking for T-shirts, but you can't find what you want? Or maybe you have an idea of something you want to put on the T-shirt? Or does your team not look like a team because you guys are wearing old logos, mismatching, different colors? That's not a good look. But Rudy at Royal Star Inc. got you covered. Hit them up for quality T-shirts, custom designs, fast turnarounds. They look great. They feel great. For sure, you've seen me rocking their gear before, and I'm going to tell you some of the best stuff I have. Follow them on Instagram at Royal Star Inc. Improving our world by improving our community, by improving ourselves. The mission at Redneck Family Jiu-Jitsu is simple yet global in the scope. They provide world-class instruction in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a fun, family-friendly environment. They want to help every student reach their full potential both as an individual and a contributing member to society. It's a fun place, so guys, if you want to get in shape, if you want to challenge yourself, bring your family in, bring your friends in. We'll see you there. We're Redneck Family Jiu-Jitsu, located at 1801 Taylor Road, Suite 10, right next to In-N-Out. Call 916-771-0525. Ask for Darren.